Jimmy Lakey in the morning makes me feel alive. Woke me up this morning, now I'm up and on my way. Oh, 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 yeah, what a great way to start your day, the Lakey way.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, the Lakey Way is underway. Jimmy Lakey here behind a microphone. Glad to have you here. It's the Lakey Unleashed Streamcast if you're listening live. If you're listening later, we call it a podcast. There's a lot of different ways to define things, say things, but doggone it, glad to have you here on the program. Jimmy Lakey is my name. Jaime Lagos, to be exact. If you're down south of the border here illegally, maybe the English is not your specialis. Well, Jaime Lagos will work for me. Good to have you here on the show. Got an action-packed lineup today. By the way, Stacy Miller Pratt, first in this morning. Hello from hot Texas. Well, it's not too bad right now. Well, glad that you cleared up the weather forecast for Stacy Miller Pratt. I can't see it. It's way far away. Anyway, hello from Texas. We ought to do a survey one day, like a census, a government census, and find out outside of our home state of Colorado, where we broadcast from, the communist regime of Jared Polis hidden in the bunker, so the commies of Colorado don't get us. But we ought to do a survey. I think Texas, probably one of the most populated states as far as our audience. We love to have the folks in Texas out there. All of you outside of Stacy, our Lois probably going to join us from Texas. She's a regular Texan. All of you Texans sound off today will be official. Let's declare it right now. Texas Day on the Lakey Unleashed Streamcast. So all of you in Texas sound off. And all of you that are outside of the state of Texas, you can comment in the comment section of whatever platform you're listening, and you can tell us why you don't like Texas or why you think Texans are getting too much credit here on the program. But listen, as a native person of Texas, a native son of Texas, I'm still surprised when I drive back into there's the river valley of Arkansas represented well. We have Missouri as well. A lot of 2 or 3, 4 people every day seem to jump in. At least we hear comments from Missouri. And I do know, looking at our numbers, that we have a lot of folks that listen overseas. At least are on like Bangladesh. I think we're a big hit in Bangladesh or Pakistan. I don't know. Some godforsaken land over there is listening to us as well. So anyway, wherever you're at, if you're on the Facebook, the Twitter, or as we know it now as the X, the Rumble, if you make a comment, it pops up right here into our studio, and we get to see it. And yeah. So producer Chad filters them first to make sure that they're worthy, because not everyone who peeps deserves to be heard. Some people just zip it. Anyway, good to have you here on the program. An action-packed show. Our old buddy, law enforcement guru Michael Letts, is going to be with us today. Rachel Ehrenfield, who wrote a book on the Soros agenda. Rachel's going to be with us talking about old Georgie Soros. Our former federal prosecutor, assistant federal U.S. attorney, Mr. John O'Connor is going to be on the show later on. And of course, today is Thursday. And if you remember back in the Lakey radio days, before I was unleashed from the confines of corporate radio, we had a great guest every Thursday by the name of Jay Ratliff, our aviation and travel expert. And today is a day that the Lord has made. And it's also the day that Jay Ratliff will be on the show for aviation and travel talk. And we have not been able to do this for 2 weeks. Last Thursday, he was unavailable. I was doing the show from Rwanda. That's in Africa, for those of you playing the home game. And also, the week before that, I was off work. I was not doing the show because I was in travel and in transit to Africa. So, ladies and gentlemen, an action-packed show. You don't want to miss a portion of it. But if you do, hark, the herald angels sing. If you do miss a portion of it, I have a solution for you. You can always go back on all of the platforms. We're on Twitter, YouTube, etc. Hello, YouTube, by the way. Good morning, YouTube and Rumble. You can go back and rewatch the show or just download it on any of the podcast platforms. iHeart, remember that name? We used to be very close to those iHeart people until I was unleashed from the confines of corporate radio. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. So wherever you listen to us, subscribe, and that way if you miss portion of any of the interviews today, you can always go back and be a part of the show. We always love it when you do that. Anyway, good morning to all of you. Couple of big stories out there. Pete Hegseth, Oh, here's another one. The Missouri Ozarks. Rich is one of those Missouri folks. We got several folks in Missouri. Again, we have declared today Texas Day. So anybody tuning into the state from the state of Texas, love to hear from you. I do have a question of the day I want to get to. I teased yesterday, but before I do, can I bless your heart? I like to bless your heart. That's what I do. Not in a condescending Southern person kind of way, bless their heart. No, just like I want to give you a blessing of your heart. You ready for this? It's going to make you happy. Pete Hegseth was on fire yesterday at the NATO summit and doing a press conference with President Donald J. Trump. And evidently, because of the treatment of fake news CNN and MSNBC, those two networks and the New York Times, the way they treated the people that carried out that miraculous mission in Iran, the way they wrote about it wasn't successful, they're lying. Donald Trump says, I'm not having any of it. And he's actually called for one of the reporterettes to get fired. And hopefully that reporterette will have her ass kicked to the curb. And she can go, she probably got a journalism degree somewhere, that liberal arts degree. So she should be really good at saying, do you want fries with that? The reporterette at CNN. Donald Trump has called for her firing. Well, this morning, Pete Hegseth came out early this morning. I don't have video of that. I have video of yesterday. This morning, Hegseth came out with Raising Cane, General Kane, and they went through the damage assessment for what happened in Iran, talked about the history of the bombs that were put there, talked about the precision. They put up graphics. They showed the penetration hole. They showed everything, and basically exposing that CNN, MSNBC, and the New York Times are nothing but propagandists for the communist left of America. That's all they are. If you watch CNN at all, if you watch MSNBC at all, if you're doing anything to peruse any kind of news from them, you are being indoctrinated. There's a reason that people that watch MSNBC and that's their news source walk around with angst and trepidation, because they're being spun into hate. They have joined a cult of hatred out there, and that's why I've never known anybody happy or pleasant or somebody that you even want to have over dinner that uses and watches MSNBC or probably even CNN. They have all turned out to be just whiny little biatches and what we would call libitards is what we call them. And they're really sad people, and Pete Hegseth called them out yesterday. Now, this morning, he set them straight again on the damage assessment press conference that they had. 6 o'clock, I believe, is our time, 8 o'clock East Coast time. And I was watching it live because Lakey, that's Brother Lakey to some of you, I was up getting ready for the show. And as a duty of the program, I was watching the Hegseth press conference, 6 a.m. Mountain Time, 8 a.m. East Coast time. And you can do your own math of what time, where you were at that time. But can I do this? You ready? Oh, I love it. Jeff was right. Jeff put this up here. The Blue Klux Klan. Yeah, we call them, there's all the things that call the Democrats, but the Democrats are the Blue Klux Klan. I like that. Thank you for reminding of what he called them, the Blue Klux Klan. So all of you that watch the party, watch the MSNBC, the CNN, all that stuff, you're angry with Trump and you're in love with the Blue Klux Klan, and good for you. Something I do trust in the morning is Jimmy Lakey. Oh, we're going to get to that topic in just a moment. Don't jump the gun. Watch Hegseth. Hegseth takes on the media yesterday, and they're not very happy with MSNBC and CNN and New York Times for questioning the veracity of the accuracy of those strikes that happened in Iran over the weekend. And I find it an interesting take, and yet I think it's an honest take. This morning, General Kane was talking about the heroic actions of men and women that were pilots on that journey for 37 hours, taking out that Iranian nuclear program. And he also talked about the families when they became aware that their husbands and wives and moms and daughters and sons were all heading over for this heroic mission. They found out about it late Saturday. And by Sunday, when the planes returned, the families had all gathered and waving American flags and tears and joy. And it was a fantastic scene, General Kane said. He said even talking about it caused him a little bit of emotion, just talking about the scene of reuniting. And so I think it's interesting that Hegseth and Trump and the administration are not just saying you're propagandists at MSNBC. It's not just saying that you're lying sacks of Joea at CNN. It's really just saying you're insulting. You were insulting men and women and their families who made a very big commitment to the U.S. military and knew when they headed off across the blue skies out in the wild blue yonder, heading off to take off those Iranian nuclear facilities, they knew that there was a chance that they would never come back. They'd never see their loved ones again. They knew that they were going into an active war zone, and that if they were detected, there was going to be an effort to kill them, destroy them. And yet they went willingly, and they went with joy, and they came back to be greeted by a family glad that their prayers had been answered and their loved one has been saved. But the human part of it does not matter, because CNN and MSNBC are so filled with hatred that comes from the pit of somewhere, but it's not the pit of humanity. They're so filled with hatred that they would discount the sacrifice and the salute that we should be giving to these people who ran this mission. They don't want to admit their sacrifice or give them any kind of salute to do that because they're so filled with Trump derangement syndrome. And this is the hatred that you find people that watch CNN. I challenge you out there, if you're a regular consumer of CNN, MSNBC, or the New York Times, I would bet you're not a pleasant person. I say that as a broad, sweeping swoop, but I'm telling you, I would bet you're not a pleasant person because I've never met one. It's like finding a unicorn, someone that listens to MSNBC, believes CNN. No wonder you have a hatred for the world. No wonder we could go on. Anyway, watch this is Hegseth taking on the media, and watch how he spins it down and says, hey, media, guess what? You're not just insulting the president. You have such a hatred, and he points to Donald Trump. You have such a hatred for this guy that you're willing to insult the men and women who laid everything on the line and thank God came home safely on Saturday night and Sunday morning. This is Hegseth on fire yesterday, and he's slapping him in the face at MSNBC and CNN, and good for him. Watch it. Here we go.
There's a reason the president calls out fake news for what it is. These pilots, these refuelers, these fighters, these air defenders, the skill and the courage it took to go into enemy territory flying 36 hours on behalf of the American people and the world to take out a nuclear program is beyond what anyone in this audience can fathom. And then the instinct of CNN, the instinct of the New York Times is to try to find a way to spin it for their own political reasons to try to hurt President Trump or our country. They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce? And when they introduce that preliminary report that's deemed to be a low assessment, do you know what a low assessment means? Low confidence in the data in that report. And why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence of what was just bombed by 12 30,000-pound bombs is buried under a mountain, devastated and obliterated. So if you want to make an assessment of what happened at Fordo, you better get a big shovel and go really deep, because Iran's nuclear program is obliterated. And somebody somewhere is trying to leak something to say, oh, with low confidence, we think maybe it's moderate. Those that dropped the bombs precisely in the right place know exactly what happened when that exploded. And you know who else knows? Iran. That's why they came to the table right away, because their nuclear capabilities have been set back beyond what they thought were possible because of the courage of a commander-in-chief who led our troops, despite what the fake news wants to say.
Boom, there's the fake news. Take that, you little Saxajawea. You lying Saxajawea. We don't like you. It was right. It's because of their hatred for this guy. They're willing to discount the sacrifice, the skill, and even the salute that these men and women that flew the combat mission should get. And it was a fantastic briefing this morning. That was yesterday at NATO. And Hegseth this morning, 6 a.m. Eastern time, went through the play-by-play, and the numbers have changed, but he confirmed it was 12 of those bunker busters just at the Fordow facility. There's 12 there. And they went 6 on each side. There were ventilations. He went through it in a great detail. Iran had a few weeks ago put cement covers kind of covering those ventilation holes, and the first 2 on each side simultaneously were programmed to blow the cement covers off, and then all the rest of them went one by one right down the middle chute, the way the ventilation. Watch the press conference this morning. he outlined it. And again, public shaming of these idiots, I think, is possible, probable, and probably just deserved. Anybody who watches CNN, MSNBC, or reads the New York Times, obviously is not a person interested in truth, and is probably just very overall a very angry and nasty person. Name to me a pleasant person you know that consumes all of their news from MSNBC. I can't name one. I've known some of the craziest bad crap crazy people ever that just consume that, and they're convinced that there is no other opinion. And it's really cult-like on their part. And I appreciate Hegseth and the administration calling them out. And I think we all just got to call them out. You got to say, why are you watching that crap? That's, there's plenty of bias out there in the Newsmax and Fox News, but it ain't the cult-like hatred and fomenting that's happening on those other networks. And good for Hegseth and good for Trump for calling them out. All right, I got Michael Letts coming up here in just a moment, law enforcement genius. And we got a couple of comments, conversation topics for him. But before I do, I teased to this topic yesterday in the show, a question of the day. As you know, outside of the world of politics, we try to have other questions and we try to realize there's other things in life. And somebody did a survey, and I teased it yesterday. And I want to dive into this today because it's very interesting, generations, how we are alike. We're all humans, right? We're all God's children, but we're also very different. And they did a survey, and they just said, what is your most trusted brand? The brand that you're loyal to, the brand that you trust the most, whether it's a car, whether it's a product that you use, what is that brand that you really just glom onto and you're like, that's my brand? And even in Africa last week, I have a friend that if he orders a beer, he drinks a Mutzig. He will tell you, my father drinks Mutzig, my grandfather drank Mutzig, we drink Mutzig. It's a Rwandan beer. There's other people you can find there. It's similar to maybe the Coors or Budweiser argument that maybe has happened in your life. There's other people that say, no, I drink Primus or Primus, Primus. That's another Rwandan beer. So people have opinions about brands. People that only drive a Ford, they would never be seen in a Chevy. People that that would only drive a Ford. People that I would never drive one of those Toyota pickups. I got to have a Ford F4550. Or what number are they up to? Like 650? Started off with 150, then 250, and now I think they're up to like 4,500. So whatever the Ford is, you got to drive the Ford. Well, they did a survey, and this is our question of the day. And what is your most trusted brand? And I want to go through the generations, kind of the top, and there's a couple that weave through, and we'll get through this. We got a lot of guests today. But for those of you out there that are baby boomers, of all the brands that you trust, and you're like, this is my brand, I have always bought this, I'm loyal to it. The number one brand is Kleenex. The tissue, but Kleenex. You like the Kleenex brand. Followed for the boomers is Dawn dish soap, UPS, Tylenol, and Band-Aid. Others that make the list for the boomers out there, the baby boomers, is Lowe's is a great brand. Ace Hardware is a great brand. Colgate toothpaste, specifically. They're like, we would trust the Colgate as boomers. Cream cheese is Philadelphia cream cheese. And they also trust the Bounty and the Hefty. So those are brands, right? Big picture brands. Like, what brand are you loyal to? Gen Xers, my generation, our top thing that we're loyal to and we just feel good about is Dawn dish soap. And what's interesting is Dawn dish soap shows up in all the generations. Everybody, it's almost like baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, Chevrolet, and Dawn dish soap. It's like an American thing. Every generation says a trusted brand is the Dawn dish soap. Also, honorable mention for the Gen Xers, which is me, Heinz ketchup. We're very loyal to Heinz. Tylenol, Home Depot. See, the older ones like the Lowe's, the younger ones like the Home Depot. It's interesting there. By the way, it's Gen Xers and boomers that mention those stores because the other guys live in their parents' basement and they don't shop at those stores. M&M's, Gen Xers are very loyal. So again, let me do compare, then I go to my guess. Kleenex and Dawn dish soap, boomers and Gen Xers. Millennials, their top brand, Google. Not a product. Well, it is a product, but it's a digital product. And then Gen Z, or their top most trusted brand, is YouTube. So I just found it very interesting. I'll go through some more of these, but they the older Americans or the Gen Xers or the Boomers, we're out there. What are Boomers or Gen Xers are middle age up into heading towards their retirement years, and of course, Boomers are already probably retired. And we look at tangible products that we have in our cabinet. The Millennials and the Gen Zers say, "I'm a YouTuber, I'm a Google. That's my top brand, and I really trust it." So anyway, what I'm saying is, I have a question for you, and I want you to post it in the chat room. What are the things that you find? What are the things that you find, the brands that you're most loyal to? Is it a car brand? Is it a beer brand? What are the brand that you trust most? If somebody said, what's your most trusted brand? You know you're loyal to it. What would that be? Let me hear what you have to say in the chat rooms everywhere, all the platforms. If you're on the X this morning, the Rumble, the Facebook, the Twitter, wherever you're at, we're on several feeds. And by the end of the day, thousands of people will hear this broadcast and or see it on all the podcast platforms as well. So please let us know your favorite and most loyal brand, the brand that you are most loyal to. Ready, set, go. All right. Can I welcome into the program Mr. Michael Letts, waiting patiently in the green room for us to jump into the conversation. Law enforcement guru. And he's got a great organization. We'll talk about investusa.org. But Michael, good morning. Welcome back in, sir.
Well, always a privilege with you, Jimmy. I was just smiling at your previous question. What's a trusted, loyal brand? You know, Colt 45 always is a stops a criminal dead in their tracks every time. That's my most trusted brand, Jimmy.
You know what? It's funny. Guns, people have a very trusted brand in guns. You know, people are either Ford or Chevy people. They're usually not both. You people are German car driven if they like cars and not the Japanese cars or the America. Everybody's got, in every category, you probably have just something. I had a Colt. My grandbaba had a Colt. Mama had a Colt. And damn it, I'm going to have a Colt. And I'm not going to get one of those 6 hours. None of that crap. And people are just loyal to stuff.
Exactly right. Combat tested.
It is. Michael Letts is here, and let's jump in here. Michael, obviously, we've a lot of stuff in the Middle East, but I think what's come to our mind after the Iranian crumble, but we still have a lot of Iranians unaccounted for in this very country. You're a law enforcement guy, and while the military is taking care of matters overseas in Iran, we've got a law enforcement problem here of hunting down these illegals that are still in this country. The Biden administration let into the country, at least they know of, 700 released Iranian nationals are still roaming the streets. I think we arrested like 15 or 16 this week. We got a problem. Are we going to end up with a sleeper cell waking up here real soon?
Quite frankly, yes. And we've already gotten some of them that are already starting to wake up. And we've now realized we have over 1,000 Iranians that were put into this country by the Biden administration. Let me just tell you what happened yesterday. It will drive the point home, Jimmy. One of the ones we picked up yesterday, you know, he had on him his identification card. He is a member of the Iranian Republican Guard, ability trained sniper. That is his MOS. He is a trained sniper here illegally. Now, you tell me what he's doing here illegally as a trained sniper. Quite frankly, that is the tip of the iceberg. What we're going to see now in these terrorist cells, we have more terrorist cell locations than you and I have time to talk about on the air this morning, all over the country, from D.C., Dallas, Boca Raton, L.A., New York. We can just go down the list. We know the cells are there. We are now seeing through intelligence their activity. They're beginning to stir. And quite frankly, they've been given the green card now from Iran. Please go ahead and exercise jihad on the American people, on American soil. So we need to dedicate all resources to being proactive, not reactive. And that's what I'm telling the folks is it's time we see movement. I'm not worried about them walking across the street and buying a Coke. I'm talking when we see movement that it appears organized elements are being put together to target locations. We need to move in now.
What's stunning is how many of these, I mean, obviously some people might have snuck in, but we do know for a fact that of the 1,000 or so you mentioned, 700 plus of them were actively released, caught at the border and released into the interior, maybe even got a free ride from the Biden administration into a different city or a bus ride somewhere. You just shake your head and go back to the days of Kamala Harris and Mayorkas and Joe Biden saying the border is secure, when they were knowingly and wittingly letting in these Iranian nationals. And even the Biden administration said Iran was up to nefarious activity in the Middle East. It's not like Iran's been a great ally and almost criminal behavior to let these people in the country. Somebody should be held accountable.
You're exactly right. It's time for accountability, but make it even more distressing to what you just said, Jimmy. Is 1,200 Iranians slash members from the Taliban, Al Qaeda, and ISIS were brought in by you and I. We paid for their air transportation to come here. They didn't just slip them in, let them in. They brought them here, and they released 1,200 of them in the last previous administration, all across the country. And now they're saying we don't know where they're at. Well, that's kind of stretching it. We do know where a lot of them at, but it's time for us to go in and pick them up because, quite frankly, they don't be here to begin with.
The voice, if you're listening later on the podcast, once this video is done live, if you're listening to the podcast, which a lot of you do throughout the day, that's the voice of Michael Letts. He has a great organization called investusa.org. You can check it out, help out law enforcement, investusa.org. And Michael, it's just fascinating. How quickly can the CIA, the FBI, whoever is tracking this intelligence of these terrorist cells that have sparked up across America? We saw 15 or so arrested this week so far. How quickly are we going to be able to track these people down now that they're kind of waking up a little bit?
Well, quite frankly, we've already got most of them tracked. Here's the issue. And the president has done the right thing when they did these riots, shall we call them, these across the country. They allowed the president to bring in the Insurrection Act, and that allowed us to use military assets as well. And quite frankly, with these kind of people, Jimmy, special forces needs to be the one knocking on their door. We always can have some law enforcement attachment with them, but they need to be fully tactically geared out. Special forces need to be knocking on their door, taking them out, making sure they leave this country immediately.
Do you know if there's any talk? We talk about accountability. Even the Congress going back, Mayorkas obviously lied under oath before Congress. Kamala Harris lied to the media about the border being secure. Joe Biden we talk about it. We fawn about accountability. But at some point, does accountability ever happen to this previous administration, or will their accountability just be in the annals of history and the history books told about how crappy and un-American they really were?
I don't think we have any choice, Jimmy. Let me tell you why. If we don't start holding people accountable, the whole American distrust of government is going to cause our government to collapse from within. And quite frankly, we've been mentioning this to the administration. I don't think we can hold people accountable through our judicial system anymore. It's too corrupt. The Constitution recognizes that this day may come, provides for the ability to establish military tribunals either by the commander-in-chief or by the Speaker of the House. It's time we exercise that. Military tribunals need to be pulled together immediately, and we need to start using them for their purpose. And that's to hold people that think they're above the law accountable. That includes too many members of Congress, quite frankly.
Yeah, there's this story that you saw the video, I think, earlier of Hegseth calling out MSNBC and CNN for going from this leaked document. That was a preliminary. If you read the whole leaked document, it was basically said, well, this is probably inaccurate, but we got a lot to learn. But they ran it and said the attacks were unsuccessful. Now Kash Patel has said they're going to go in and find out who was the leaker here. If that person is charged with what they could be charged, that's treason. And that's punishable by death. I mean, maybe, I hate to say it, but some crazy radical member of the Ku Klux Klan hiding in the deep state out there that's a new phrase we use here. Ku Klux Klan is maybe that's what it's going to take: a life imprisonment, an execution for treason. I mean, I don't know, but this stuff has to stop eventually.
Well, back to what we were just talking about, Jimmy. Military tribunals is the only way to purge and to clean the filth that's in Congress and in our judicial system. How many judges that we have that have been compromised now? Nobody's willing to do anything because they know their friend next door is doing the same thing. Nobody wants to rat on each other. Quite frankly, we have the information. It's not a matter of do we suspect. We know. We have the facts. Nobody wants to hold people accountable because they're scared of their repercussions. Fine. Then let's do what the Constitution says. We'll have a military tribunal. Let the military do what it's been charged to do. That's to provide for the common defense of the American people. The part of the defense for the American people is rooting out this evil that we can't see be root out on our own.
You're obviously an expert in long history in domestic law enforcement, and you've been in the law enforcement world for a long time. But let's go overseas and kind of talk about our national security. And what do you think is going to come out of as these intelligence reports are coming out? It looks like the damage was extensive, obliterated, whatever words you want to use. Some people, Iran's press people and the supreme leader, whatever, the supreme pizza guy over there, he's we're going to rebuild. We'll rebuild. How close do we need to pay attention and keep an eye on Iran's facilities moving forward?
Well, we need to be very vigilant. Let me tell you why. Two things are going to happen. First of all, you can't trust what the Ayatollahs say. They will say we'll sign a peace accord, but at the same time, we're going to run down in the basement, start mixing up some atomic nuclear juice again if we can. But then the second thing they have to realize is the Iranian people are sick and tired of what's been going on for the last 45 days, and they're beginning to rise up. You may have a regime change. That's going to be the key, because if we don't have a regime change, then we're going to have to monitor them, just stay on top of them 24/7, but you can't trust a word that they say.
You know, the same way you can't see the full damage because a lot of that is under a mountain, buried hundreds of feet in Iran, giving CNN and MSNBC food for fodder to say, see, we don't see the damage. And everything. It's like, well, it's underground, you jackwagons. The same way we don't see what's happening behind the scenes. I would guess the Israelis, the Americans, and other people are helping out in clandestine work, helping the Iranian people raise up. We don't know what that looks like, but I'm guessing it's happening, and we should be praying that they're successful.
Yeah, it is happening. Of course, the Shah's son, Reza, is talking now about coming back to power, if that's what the Iranian people want. I've been very clear about stressing that, look, we did our job to make sure we secured the American people, and the globe for that matter, to eliminate the threat for nuclear capability. It's the job of the Iranian people to decide how they want to be governed. If they want to do something, they need to do it themselves. But certainly we need to make sure that we stay on top of protecting the American people, and that's making sure that nuts like that never have the opportunity to nuke the rest of our country or anybody else in the future.
I was reading, and a friend was reading to me yesterday news that he was finding of how many people just since Saturday and Sunday have now been executed in Iran by the Ayatollahs, accused of spying for Israel. And we're talking hundreds of people. I mean, they're if they suspect that you were in any way complicit here, and I'm guessing there were some insiders trying to help Iran take down the government. But that's a sad thing. There are people that have literally are dying for the cause of freedom today in Iran, and that's something that's not getting covered in our news. But hundreds of people have already been executed.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, the soul of every living being is the desire to be free. And quite frankly, they're not going to extinguish that. And we wish the Iranian people the best as they continue to explore and rise up to get that accomplished. But we're concentrated on what this administration wants to do, and that's America first. We're going to do everything we need to protect the American people first, and the globe if necessary, in terms of being able to make sure no crazy nuts have the ability to just nuke us at their desire.
Michael Letts, you've written a book, and we haven't talked about it. We want to do that right now. A new book on your behalf is called Truth, Lies, and Control, Finding Hope in an Upside-Down World. Why don't you give us a little clue of what we can find in the book by Michael Letts?
Well, thank you so much, Jimmy. Appreciate that opportunity. Quite frankly, we were going around the country. Everybody asked me, how did we get in this mess? And quite frankly, that's what the book's about. We got in this mess because we abandoned values and principles. How do we get back to it? We make sure we bring values and principles back. And it's a very simple process. If you don't stand for something, you fall for anything. And you'll see in the book, it gives all kinds of principles that you may not realize that we used to have in this country that we don't have anymore. It's time to return to some common sense, Jimmy.
The name of the book, Truth, Lies, and Control, by our good buddy Michael Letts, Finding Hope in an Upside-Down World. Michael, if somebody wants a copy of the book, where do they go, sir?
They can do two things. They can obviously go on every other retail like Amazon, Books A Million, etc., and buy it there. Or you can go to our website, INVESTUSA.org. Make a contribution to taking care of our first responders, to protecting them. I'll send you the book for free.
InvestUSA.org. Make a contribution, get a copy of the book for free. Michael, I appreciate you hopping in here onto the program. Michael Letts, InvestUSA.org. Always a pleasure, sir. We'll talk again.
Thank you, Jimmy. God bless. God bless America. Keep up the good work. You're making a difference.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. Michael Letts, InvestUSA.org. All right, got a special question of the day out there. Some of you were responding in that. And there was a survey done among people of all generations. Gen Zers, what's your most trusted brand? Millennials, what's your most trusted brand? Gen Xers, what's yours? And Boomers. And there's a lot of similarities, but there's also the differences. The brand that Gen Zers, those are the youngsters out there, most trust that compared to other results is TikTok. Gen Zers are big trusters of the TikTok. They trust it. The other generations like, don't trust TikTok. They also Gen Zers are big fans of brands, and notice how a lot of their brands are online. Duolingo, which is an online language learning program. Life 360, which is a app that all the kids are on and even families are on. Life 360 is a big deal. Twitch is another app that the Gen Zers like. Crocs is a brand of shoes, and I guess a brand called Fenty, Fenty Beauty. Millennials trust these brands more than most people, other adults out there. Red Bull, 5 Hour Energy, Fortnite, and Durex. Is Durex, they make condoms? Why am I asking Delilah that? Sorry. I think Durex is the condom company, right? Trojan? I'm not going to go through all the condom brands, but so the millennials really trust the Durex. They like that rubber better than the other rubber. I don't even know what to do with that. And of all the brand loyalty, I never thought of condoms as a brand loyalty. But evidently for the millennials out there, Durex is a big one. They trust that one. About Xers, Gen Xers, that would be me. The brands, and this makes totally sense to me. For most of it does. The brand that we trust at Gen X more than other adults out there, the other generations, we trust Campbell's soup. Because that's what we had. Sick day, man. You had that Campbell's chicken noodle soup with some crackers, and that's how you got over the flu at home. Speed Stick. Gen Xers really trust the Speed Stick. Also, Banquet frozen foods, the old TV dinners. We trust the Gen Xers. We trust the Banquet frozen foods. I don't have a cat, but Sheba cat food is a very big trusted food by the Gen Xers. Stanley Steamer and Yahoo. That's the early search engine Yahoo. We trust that. And the boomers, their big brands are Procter & Gamble. They love the P&G. Amusingly, boomers' next highest compared to other adults are Lazy Boy, Consumer Reports, Corningware, and Bear Aspirin. So it's interesting to see the brands that each generation has in their loyalty mix. All right, good to have you here on the program. Don't forget, my friends, if you want to chime in on any of the platforms, tell us the brands you're most loyal to. Feel free to do so. Just go to any of the platforms we're on. You're watching this on. If you're on any of the numerous Facebook feeds we're on, you can comment. It shows up here. We'll screen and put it up on the screen. If you're on X, if you're on the YouTube, if you're on Rumble this morning, wherever you are listening to this program, feel free to comment your most loyal brand. And again, by the end of the day, after the podcast of the show launches, thousands of people will be able to see and hear what your opinions are. Love to have you here. Shyla says Holland America Cruises because they go to Greece. I do know people are very loyal to the cruise brands. I do know that. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in my next guest here. It's Rachel Ehrenfield. Has written a book called The Soros Agenda. You might remember her from the radio broadcast days. Coming on the program, not sure she's been on a streamcast show yet, but author of The Soros Agenda, Rachel Ehrenfield. Rachel, good morning. Oh, I can't hear you. Your mic may be off a little bit there. See if we get her mic. There we are. Yeah, got you now. Very good. Very good. Great to have you, Rachel. I want to just dive in here. You studied George Soros and kind of his life, and I want to kind of talk about how has his finger in the pot of all sorts of global events and see if there's any ties to the Israeli and Iranian conflict. But first of all, what do we know about his son who just got married to Uma Abedin a couple of weeks ago? Is his son the heir apparent? Is his son just as, let's say, I think just as big a pain in the butt as his dad? I'll say evil even.
Well, his son got married actually last weekend, but he's freshly married to Uma Abedin, who was Hillary Clinton's assistant for many, many years. If I'm not mistaken, Hillary was the one who actually introduced them. But she knew her because she also introduced Uma to Anthony Weiner, who was her first husband.
Yeah.
So here is a Muslim, actually from a Muslim sister, who is married to a second Jew, although Alex Soros, he was born into a Jewish family. However, he is the heir to the Soros Foundations. He was appointed actually last year in June. If I'm not forgetting it, maybe it was June 20 or something when the Wall Street Journal had a huge PR piece really on the young Soros, who had been involved with the foundations, and he has his own foundations for many years. He had very big shoes to fill, and he is very, very short on filling them. He has a $25 billion at least foundation. So that's a lot of money to cause a lot of trouble. And he's trying his best, as did his father. So you asked me if he's connected to the Iran war with Israel, the U.S. war with Iran. Yes, it was, though indirectly. It was his advice to apparently he supported the Obama very, very bad deal with the Iranians that allowed the Iranians actually to develop the nuclear weapons, to enrich nuclear material, and also to develop ballistic missiles. He was behind it. He paid a lot of money for different organizations to serve as echo chambers to say how wonderful it is, etc. I don't think he was involved with giving $1.8 billion in cash to the Iranians, which Mr. John Kerry had delivered. And when he said it, he actually said, yeah, he knows that some of the money will go to things that we may not be interested in, and to develop more terrorist attacks, etc. But that was okay with him. He said it in Davos. Yeah. And also, so Anthony Blinken is very close to Soros. So the people who work with Obama and work with the deal have been actually Soros, under Soros' influence, Soros' links for decades. And so it was not surprising to see that Anthony Blinken, a day before the attack, before the United States attacked Iran so successfully, the nuclear sites, had a big op-ed in the New York Times saying, well, no, this will not do anything. This will be, we should continue with diplomacy. Only diplomacy works. Kerry, in a separate, and he spoke somewhere, and he said that, oh, no, it's only diplomacy. What? You cannot bomb memories of building nuclear weapons. You cannot bomb them away. Really? If you bomb the archive and you kill the nuclear scientist, you can.
Yeah.
So the Israelis had actually killed 14 nuclear, specifically expert on nuclear weapons development, Iranians, and also destroyed the archives.
Yeah.
So it will be a little bit more difficult to do it. It's not like they cannot get help from North Korea, from China, or from Russia, but the more likely is probably North Korea. So we have to watch it.
The voice of Dr. Rachel Ehrenfield, if you're listening on the podcast later and not watching, founder and president of a New York-based American Center for Democracy and Economic Warfare Institute, author of 2 books. I mentioned one, The Soros Agenda. The other is Funding Evil. Again, Dr. Rachel Ehrenfield. Dr. Ehrenfield, in the time that we have remaining here, you have a New York-based American Center for Democracy and Economic Warfare. We're talking about enemies in the foreign land. We also have to be careful about enemies here domestically in the United States. A lot of folks in America kind of disturbed what's happening in New York, that a guy that is blatantly on record anti-Semitic, he's anti-Israel, he wants to globalize the Intifada. He's now going to be the Democrat nominee to run the biggest city, New York City in America. Give me your thoughts, and have campaigns of guys like him, have they been funded by the Soros agenda?
Yeah. If Americans are worried, people who live in New York like me are even more so. We are worried. He's a 33-year-old Shiite Muslim, like the Iranians. He's been very vehemently and very loudly anti-Israel. He's an anti-Semite. and he's a communist. So it's the combination of everything that any American city desires, especially the biggest city and the financial center of the United States. So he has, no experience in anything. And he had, of course, the help of all the progressives here. I don't know how many people actually voted in the primaries. And I think that the fact that the second candidate for Democrat, candidate for mayor, was Como, who has been involved with a lot of corruption, etc., didn't help. So now we are with somebody who is completely, he wants to nationalize, to civil, he wants to own the state of New York, or the city of New York would own everything, including grocery stores, and everything will be free. Kindergarten, childcare, groceries, rent, schools, everything. Who do you think will pay for it? How many people? I understand that many people already called as soon as they heard that he won the primary.
Yeah.
They also contacted real estate agents in order to find them housing somewhere else.
It's a crazy day. Dr. Ehrenfield, we're going to run short on time here. If folks want to copy and learn more about you, they know you got a couple of books. You've got Funding Evil and the Soros Agenda. Where do they go and buy the books, and where do they go to learn more about the work you do?
They can buy the books on Amazon, the Soros Agenda, Funding Evil, and even narco-terrorism and evil money. They can find more information about this on acdemocracy.org, acdemocracy.org, which is the website of the organization. And go and look up. And if you read the Soros Agenda, you will understand what happened and what is going to happen and what is happening now and why.
Dr. Ehrenfield, Dr. Rachel Ehrenfield, give the website one more time.
acdemocracy.org. acdemocracy.org, American Center for Democracy.
Dr. Ehrenfield, appreciate you hopping on here. Again, the book is called The Soros Agenda and Funding Evil. Dr. Rachel Ehrenfield, acdemocracy.org. Before I go to my next guest, can I remind you about my friend Sherry Cree, homeswithsherry.com. I've been talking about Sherry, and as you kind of look around the real estate market, Colorado is one of those places that people still want to move. If you're outside of the state, want to move here, talk to Sherry. Maybe you want a mountain home. She can help you with that. But maybe you're a person in Colorado that says, I need to get out of the area that I'm in. The cost of living between Boulder and Denver can vary greatly. Maybe you need to head out a little bit further east. Listen, there's a lot of strategy here about if you're going to be in the Colorado real estate market, play it to where it's going to be play in your favor and create generational wealth. That's what Sherry does. It's not just about, we're going to stage your home and we're going to put the sign here and we're going to have open houses on this day. That's great. But is there a strategy that what you do now is going to benefit you 4, 5, 6, even 20 years down the road? She knows that with the right strategy and the right moves and the right neighborhood, at the right time, the right place, and just getting the right prices and the right offers on a home, it can really, if played right, create generational wealth. And that's what it's not just about the transaction today. It's about earning the right to be your realtor for life. Homeswithsherry.com is your website. Homeswithsherry.com. homeswithsherry.com, and we would love to have you participate by calling her. That's a way you can participate by calling the show. If nothing else, call her and tell her yesterday was her birthday. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. We appreciate her being a sponsor of the program. Homeswithsherry.com. Anywhere the I-25 corridor in Colorado, from Denver and down south into the Highlands Ranch up to Windsor, Fort Collins area, Boulder, Broomfield, Parker, Aurora. She can make sure you don't live next to a Trenday Aragua gang member, more than likely, in Aurora. Homeswithsherry.com. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, he's waiting patiently in the green room. Our next guest up on this action-packed show. His name is John O'Connor. He's author of a book called Postgate, How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, covered up Watergate, and began today's partisan advocacy journalism and the Mysteries of Watergate podcast, which I would highly recommend to you. He's a former U.S. attorney. He was actually the attorney for the famed Deep Throat. It's John O'Connor in the green room. John, good morning, sir. How are you?
Hey, great, Jimmy.
Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah. I
Go
was just
ahead.
going to say, great guest you just had on. That funding with Soros is very interesting.
Yeah, it is. The Soros Agenda is an interesting book, and the ties to how, even from the mayoral candidate that's scaring the heebie-jeebies out of people in New York City to the Iran nuclear deal and the money that we sent over there under Obama. There's a lot of ties to that guy named Soros, and she details it all and goes deep into the background of it. John, let's dive in here. First of all, you wrote a book on Postgate, how the Washington Post betrayed Deep Throat, covered up Watergate, and began today's partisan advocacy journalism. I'm watching over the weekend journalists at it again, talking about the attacks in Iran, and they weren't successful by some preliminary report that they say that they kind of took out of context when you read the whole report. That advocacy journalism that started back in the Watergate days was alive and well with this reporter at CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times. Is what got unleashed in the Watergate era, is that ever going to dissipate? Are we ever going to get rid of this partisan advocacy journalism?
Well, as I showed in the book, partisan advocacy journalism leads to fraud. It is fraud. In Watergate, it was just plain out fraud. And this fellow, whoever it was, I'm not sure who the journalist was, it was male or female, who wrote the first story, did it in a very unbalanced way. It was a very low confidence assessment, very preliminary, and where a full reading of that report would have really told you the truth, that it's probably more likely that it was serious damage to Fordo and so forth. But what happens is, the more you're partisan, the more you are inclined to lie. So that same journalist who did the Fordo piece also bought off on the
the Hunter Biden laptop. They were on that one.
Hunter Biden laptop, exactly, and another one as well. And I forget which one, but the Hunter Biden laptop is the one that comes to mind. So buying off on these phony deals, Russiagate probably being one of them. So this is what's happening. We're constantly barraged with false stories, and it's the false narratives that get us. And what happens is we have bad history. Now, even looking at the Iraq War, whether we should have done it or not, it's one thing people should have in their minds, that Saddam Hussein was behind 9/11. There's no doubt about that. He was supported Osama bin Laden. I've got a big piece on it on my website at Postgate, but basically it did not fit the narrative of the left, so we don't tell the truth about 9/11. So even today, my point is, even today, 2025, we're saying, oh, we don't want to get involved in a war like Iraq. That was just stupid. We went in there for stupid reasons. Now, the fact is, we stayed in too long. We tried to build a nation. I'm not saying we should have stayed in Iraq, but should we have gone in and gone out? Heck yes. We had to go in surgically, and that's what we should have done. But anyway, that's not my point. My point is, right now we're trying to draw the lessons of history that may be falsely portrayed from the past. And Watergate is one of those that's falsely portrayed. And now we're trying to do it with everything we do, including the bunker buster. We went through 4 years of Biden in which, if you read the media, you would have no knowledge that this has just been a terrible presidency.
Yeah. The voice of John O'Connor, former U.S. attorney, Watergate's Deep Throat, attorney. If you want to learn more, get that book called Postgate, and also the podcast that John O'Connor does will give the information on that, and it will really put in perspective how we ended up where we're at, to where you have a little reporter at CNN, obviously with an agenda, because it's partisan advocacy journalism that started back in the days of Watergate. So there's your American history lesson called Postgate, how the Washington Post betrayed Deep Throat, and the mysteries of Watergate is the name of the podcast. John, if we can switch gears here a little bit, as a former assistant U.S. attorney in Northern California, you've worked in the criminal side of the civil cases, and obviously everything that Donald Trump has tried to do in this administration, he immediately gets to court, they judge shop, and there's sometimes a national injunction that happens by some local court, which I think is wrong, but that's a whole different topic. But it seems as if when President Trump makes it to the Supreme Court, He's getting some pretty good rulings, even one or two that have been unanimous, that the court was wrong to block him. And even this most recent one, that he's deporting people and sending them off to third party countries, that he can continue that. And even that was a 6-3 vote, which is a pretty hefty majority. Give me your thoughts. Is SCOTUS, is it good that SCOTUS is kind of in the goal and saving us, or is it bad that we even get to that place to where SCOTUS has to make these decisions?
Well, both. And what SCOTUS is really saying, they're not saying it directly, is that there's not enough sense of the lower courts of something that used to be common in American jurisprudence, political questions. Courts had always been loath to get involved when the issue is really between, say, Congress and the president, or between, in the case of the National Guard in L.A., between the federal government and the state government. These are political questions that are best left to the politics, and judges should not be intervening there. But that's a discretionary matter where you have to have some judicial humility and say, listen, this isn't something for a judge. This is really something for someone else. I'm gonna back off this. It's very hard today to not, because there have been a lot of judges now can become heroes like other people. And Judge Sirica in Watergate, even though he really did some terrible things judicially, oh, he's a big hero. He's the great guy in the world. People are reading about him. So we get in our society where everybody is, can be a hero. It's an inclination for a judge to step in there and say, boy, I'm going to stop this Trump. Even if you don't like Trump, you've got to say, look, this is a president. He has responsibility for the border, responsibility for our troops. Let's cut him a lot of slack. Let's give him a wide berth of discretion. I'm not saying a court shouldn't rule on any of this stuff, but they ought to give them proper leeway. And that's exactly what happened with the National Guard decision.
The voice of John O'Connor, again, author of a book called Postgate, How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, covered up Watergate, and began today's partisan advocacy journalism. And if you're a podcast listener, many of you listening to this podcast, when it goes up later today, thousands of you listen to it on a daily basis on the podcast platforms, find The Mysteries of Watergate, and I think you will feel smarter about the Watergate era, The Mysteries of Watergate with John O'Connor. John, when one of these judges gets slapped down, there's been several of them kind of overturned and have been kind of rebuked in a sense by the Supreme Court. Is there any shame? Is there any like, okay, maybe I should look back at my judicial paradigm and start doing better? Is the SCOTUS rebuke or the SCOTUS overturning, is that any cause for these judges to reflect and say, okay, yeah, I've kind of overstepped?
Well, the problem is, Jimmy, it gets back to my problem with the media. As long as you're on one side of the aisle on your decisions and so forth, the media is never going to take you to task. And the media is really a proxy for society as a whole. Judges work on honor. I thought about being a judge, and I could have been one, but at the time I needed some to pay off my kids' tuition. So, but the point is, judges go there because of honor. And if the media is fair in its reporting, perhaps we're going to get a more balanced judiciary. That's my point. But right now, if you come in and issue an order that says that Trump can't eat breakfast, you're going to be, nobody's going to look down upon you. As a matter of fact, you'll be applauded. And that's one of the problems. The media affects everything. It infects the judiciary. It infects the deep state. Look at what James Comey could get away with. As long as the media is not on you, and when they catch you, as they catch James Comey, no harm to you. Oh, you were a great guy. You tried to stop Trump, even though it was a phony Russiagate investigation. That is one of our problems. To the extent that the large media is still the proxy for society, we're going to get a lot of injustice.
Wow. Again, the voice of John O'Connor. John, there's been talk that there's going to be some legislation passed that would cause these lower courts to not be able to stop something nationally, a national injunction on things. Is there progress on that? What are you hearing? Is that something that has to come through Congress?
Well, Congress obviously is talking about it. It's very hard for them to do it because, as Amy Coney Barrett so aptly said in one of the recent arguments, there are times for a national injunction when somebody's doing something in one spot. The judge has authority over that particular wrongdoing, even though it may affect 50 states. There are some cases where you should have a national injunction. So I'm hoping that it's hard to legislate, is what I'm saying, Jimmy.
Yeah.
But however, it is something that's appropriate for the Supreme Court. And I think they're just waiting. And maybe one of the decisions that's going to come out is going to start teaching. One of the things the Supreme Court does, it teaches the lower courts and gives general direction. And I think that's what they want to do. And hopefully they'll find a vehicle to do that. That's what they're looking for.
Last quick question for you. If it doesn't pass through the houses of Congress, we got the three separate branches, government separate but co-equal branches. We know the battles between the judicial branch and the executive branch. A lot of us look at the legislative and the executive branch. A lot of us look at the judicial branch and say, are they really accountable to anybody? I mean, after a judge gets confirmed, it doesn't seem that there's any willingness by the other branch of government to have any accountability. It seems like they're just kind of rogue out there. Is it up to the Supreme Court to rein in the entire judicial system when it comes to judges? Where does that come from? Because we understand the battle and the stress and probably a good, healthy conflict between legislators and executive, but the judicial branch seems to be a little bit more equal than the rest of them.
Well, we appoint federal judges for life, specifically so that they will not be politically influenced, and that part of it is good. The problem is they're in for life. But, a psychiatrist died, goes to heaven, St. Peter's, says, oh, we've been waiting for you. We've been waiting for it. Thank God, get right in there. And the psychiatrist says, what's up? And he says, well, God's got delusions of grandeur. He thinks he's a federal judge. So that's what we have here, and the power is very, very very intoxicating, and can be. And I'm a big fan of the federal system because you get the best clerks, you get wonderful judges, and it's only when I think to be fair, it's only when you get to these political questions that they feel the need to come in and whack a guy like Trump. Yeah. And so forth. They're generally pretty good, and you get really reasoned opinions. So I don't want to, I practiced in that system, and I was a floor below the courts in San Francisco for a number of years, and used to pop up and down all day. Yeah. And they're pretty smart with really good clerks, and so the problem is we've got a politicized age, and we have a media that glorifies one side of it, and that's really what we've got here, Jimmy.
The book is called Postgate, and again, the voice of John O'Connor. Postgate: How the Washington Post Betrayed Deep Throat, Covered Up Watergate, began today's partisan journalism, advocacy journalism. John O'Connor was actually Deep Throat's attorney back in the day. And if you want a great podcast, go to the Mysteries of Watergate podcast. John, the book is available anywhere fine books are sold, or they can go to postgatethebook.com. Correct?
Yeah, well, I would say go to postgatebook.com, and I've got maybe 120 articles on various subjects up there. Also have the book Mysteries of Watergate, which is a really nice one too. But it's all there, and there are a lot of different things people will find interesting at my website, postgatebook.com.
John, appreciate you. Thanks for hopping on, my friend. Postgatebook.com, and stay safe out there on the left coast. We appreciate you hopping on this program. Ladies and gentlemen, no further ado. We have been a couple of weeks without him. 1 week I was en route to Africa and was in travel, and then last week he was unavailable when I did the show from Rwanda. Jay Ratliff, our aviation and travel expert. Hello, Jay Ratliff. Good morning.
Hey, pleasant good morning.
Top of the morning to you, sir. I've got to tell you, international travel is not as glamorous as they say it is. I do it many times, and it's just not there.
No, and again, we talk about, and we have for years, my friend, we endure travel. The years of us enjoying it, long over. It's just a matter of, Lord, just get me there, please.
Yeah, it was. It's quite true. Quite true. All right, let's dive into a couple of things. I saw the story you sent me about the TSA. All of us get that screening, and everything goes in the tub. And if you're TSA pre-check, you don't have to take your shoes off. And I mean, just the whole variety of getting the screening. Well, now TSA says, hey, if you have a certain type of cell phone, you ain't taking that on a plane.
Yeah, in fact, that is the Galaxy, I want to say Galaxy 7. Let me make sure I get this right because I don't want to get any mean emails from people. But The TSA has issued an emergency order banning the Samsung Galaxy Note 7 smartphone device. It goes back to 2016, so it's not a real current model, but you and I have talked about these lithium batteries. The phone's overheating during flight. The flight attendant's grabbing a fire suppression bag, putting the phones in there and putting out the fire. I mean, flight attendants are now firefighters in addition to everything else they do. But the frequency of these are occurring so much now that if a phone gets stuck in a seat and they can't get to it, the captain will order an emergency landing, and they will land that airplane at the closest airport so the maintenance team can come on and get the phone out by taking the seat apart. The fear is if it gets lodged, any sort of electronic device powered by these lithium batteries could start to overheat, could catch on fire, and now you've got a seat or seats or a row on fire, and that becomes a very hazardous situation at 35,000 feet. So as a result, the the FAA is saying that this Galaxy phone not going to be allowed. Obviously, nothing ever goes into checked luggage as far as an electronic device, but in carry-on, they're not letting you get past the security checkpoint. This is the first time we've seen a specific phone be banned. And as a result, I was surprised in a very good way, because typically that doesn't happen where the TSA is going to ban a phone, or the FAA or the Department of Transportation. I was very glad to see it happen. And it tells me there's a good likelihood it could happen again to other phones as we see more and more of these occurrences. And, to be honest, the fact that you could have something that catches on fire spontaneously and very quickly can consume an entire backpack or whatever the article is as far as what it might be placed in, Jimmy, it's a situation that is an obvious ticking time bomb. You're just waiting for one of these things to really create a bigger problem in flight. And I'm just glad to see that the FAA has taken action. Typically, it takes a loss of life or serious injuries before this type of thing happens. And I'm very glad that they took the steps that they've done.
I was reading this next story you sent me that I look at the airport security lines. They're all a pain. We don't like them. A necessary evil. We go through them. But that's not a place that it seems like there's a lot of law enforcement around there. So stealing something there would be like stealing something in the middle of a police department. But you've got the story that people are stealing cell phones on a regular basis at airport security checkpoints, not deterred by all the law enforcement around them.
No, in fact, in a lot of our phones, we have all of our personal information. We have a lot of things that, if somebody could hack and get into, they might have access to a lot of our financial records, accounts, and what have you. And the TSA is telling us there's a growing number of these phones that are being snatched at the security checkpoint. And what's happened is people are putting their stuff in their bins. Normally, it's a cell phone that's the last thing that goes in. So you got your bags, your shoes, whatever you might have there, and you just throw your phone on the side and away it goes. And as you know, many times we're in line, and the screening process for all the bins is much faster than it is for us as passengers. So you see the bins go through, they're being scanned pretty quick. And we've got, somebody in front of us has to be scanned, rewinded, rescanned, whatever it might happen to be. And it slows us down to where our stuff may be on the other side for maybe a minute or two before we get to it. And people are over on that side and they see this phone, and look, there's a lot of stuff going on, and nobody ever looks at you to see if you're getting your stuff. It's a fluid place. It's people going all over the place, and people are just reaching down and grabbing these cell phones right out of the bin. The TSA is telling us the easiest thing to do is put it inside a bag and then put it into screening, or put it in your shoe, or put it in something where it's not out for everybody to see, because that's where the problem's coming from. People look down and see the phone, and nobody's expecting you to reach down and grab something else, but it's happening at an alarming rate. And the TSA says if you simply hide it, the chances of it getting pilfered drop dramatically. It's when it's out like that becomes an issue. And I think that's very good advice. And with us having days right now with more than 3 million people flying on some of these busy summer travel days, I think that it's certainly a recommendation that we all need to keep in mind.
A lot of times these stories, Alaska Airlines story, the door blowing off that thing, big news. We all horrified how awful. Don't sit by the exit row or whatever. I mean, just all the things that happen. But after a few months, the story goes away and we never get the follow-up. It looks like there's some follow-up for the National Transportation Safety Board about that Alaska Airlines door plug flight emergency.
Right. And every time there's an accident, near accident, it's an 8 to 12 month process for that final report from the National Transportation Safety Board. And they have released their report this week, and they're saying that, in essence, Boeing's at fault because they had sloppy workmanship, and they didn't control their vendors, and they had really a kind of a sloppy production line there because they're rushing planes through the through the production line. But then the NTSB also blasted the FAA, saying they did a horrible job of oversight. Now, remember, Boeing 5 years ago had all the Boeing MAX issues, and they promised to be better. They gave us paragraphs of promise. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Change the CEO. We're going to go back to our roots, blah, 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 blah. They didn't do any of that. In fact, if anything, they got worse. 5 years ago, the Federal Aviation Administration said, okay, our bad. We should have had a better look at the Boeing process than what we did, and we'll do better. Well, the FAA didn't do better either. So they're really hoping now that Boeing is going to be on the right track. But remember when this happened, it was January 5th, Alaska 1282, I think the flight number was, where it's flying along and the door plug blows out, falls out, whatever. It was a week before you and I were talking about Boeing putting out a memo saying that the some mechanics around the world had found on certain Boeing MAX aircraft missing or loose bolts and nuts on the rudder control system, which is what flies the airplane. That's a critical component. And they were finding pieces where the nuts were gone, the bolts were missing. And the FAA said, or Boeing said, when your maintenance team is inspecting this part of the aircraft, just take a peek and make sure that all the bolts and nuts are there. So that was a week before this happened. And this was a door plug that had nothing to do with the rudder control system, which made you think, how many things on this airplane are under torqued or don't have the fasteners at all? And thank God we didn't have a situation where someone was seriously injured or killed. You remember when that blew out, thank God there was nobody sitting right there at that seat. It blew clothing off, ripped a shirt off of a teenager. Some guy was sitting there and it just ripped his shirt off. The explosive decompression was so fast and so severe, the locked, secured cockpit door flew open. Papers from the cockpit were flying back through the cabin. You couldn't even talk to the person next to you because of the noise. It was something the NTSB called a very harrowing situation. They cited the Alaska crew as heroes and quickly said they didn't need to be because this shouldn't happen. So we'll see if Boeing does in fact change their ways. We'll know in 5 years, looking back, if they were meaning it this time. But I believed them 5 years ago, and I looked like an absolute horse's ass because I said Boeing's going to turn it around now. You have 2 crashes that killed 346 people. That's how you honor the lives of those you lost. This stuff's not going to happen again. And what happened? It was worse. Yep. So it really frustrates me, and hopefully Boeing will get things going. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Jay Ratliff, rapid fire, 2 questions. Number one, European Union catches up with common sense and has decided, hey, cutting cost and putting one pilot in a cockpit to fly a plane, probably a bad idea. Glad the EU caught up with the common sense out there.
Thank God for this. It was 2021. European Commission said, airlines spend about 40% of their operation costs on labor. It would be nice, given the technology, if we just have one pilot on the flight deck. So they have decided, thank God, that, having a backup, a redundant system, 2 pilots up there is a good idea. And believe me, it is. But what I like most about it is it was the first step to a total automated flight, meaning no pilots. That was the end goal. The one pilot was the first step, and then going totally automated was the second. So the fact that we've pushed back the first step means that the second step of a totally automated aircraft is much further behind, and I am very thankful for that.
Jay Ratliff, what's it like to move about the country today, sir?
Minneapolis, a mess. I hope you're not going through there. Issues earlier this morning in Boston and New York, those are kind of subsiding. And of course, we have those afternoon pop-up thunderstorms across the country that are going to give us issues this afternoon. We had American Airlines flight Miami to Raleigh that encountered turbulence. and they had 5 people taken to the hospital. So if you're flying, please, especially during the summertime, keep that seatbelt fastened about you just in case some of that unexpected turbulence hits.
Jay Ratliff, we appreciate you. JRatliff.com. I appreciate you, sir. I'm going to be sending you. We're announcing our golf tournament this week, so I'll be in touch. It's going to be exciting.
We will be getting ready to sponsor some holes, my friend. That's for sure.
We're going to launch that today, I think. JRatliff.com. Jay, we'll see you next week. Good to see you. JRatliff.com. Always a pleasure to have my buddy there. By the way, we're going to be putting out some new material. Our Lois says Jay Ratliff is one of her favorites. Another one. She's a big Laura Carno fan there at the House of Arloa. And sounds like a spa, doesn't it? House of Arloa. She's a big Laura Carno fan and a Jay Ratliff fan as well. Appreciate you, Arloa. Good. By the way, it's Texas Day here in the chat room, so everybody from Texas sound in. A lot of Texans out there listening to the program. We appreciate you. It's Texas Day. We should do that. We have a state of day and see where people are listening at. But today we honor the great state of Texas. We'll do a meme roulette here, but let me just honor some of you that are commenting on the question of the day. What are brands that you're loyal to? There's a survey out there that said Gen Xers, Gen Zers, and millennials are all just different. This is a brand that I keep seeing pop up in the chat room. Jim says his favorite brands he's loyal to: Spam, Norwegian Cruise Lines, American Red Cross. American Red Cross, they do great work, but their overhead for their charity is really high, and that kind of bothers me. Lots of brands that she favors are Loa back there in Texas, but KitchenAid, when it comes to dishwashers, kitchen appliances. Now, growing up, I remember my parents, and I don't know why, but they were very loyal to, I think now it's a standalone brand, but they were very loyal to what was called Kenmore. We had a Kenmore washer, a Kenmore refrigerator. I think it used to be a Sears thing. Linda goes to the kitchen and says Cooners, green beans, and corn. So the canned vegetables, she's a big Cooners fan. That's another one that's one I've never been really loyal to. The store brand of any of the green beans, corns, anything in the can. What's the best price? Is there a difference in those? I don't think there is. I've never experienced it, but I don't know. Anyway, brands that you're very loyal to out there. Jim's also very loyal to Anderson Windows. I don't have a clue. I had to have windows redone on my home after a hailstorm about a year or so ago, and they told me the brand. I said, is that a good one? They said, yeah. I said, okay, good. That's wonderful. Jeff also, here's another one, Spam. Spam and Miller Lite. Two things that haven't changed in my lifetime. Spam and Miller Lite. I'm not a beer guy, so I don't really have a big preference on the beer brands. So I don't drink a lot of beer. I mean, occasionally on a hot summer day, I may have a beer, but not often. Here's one. RJ says, Tillamook cheeses. I do know people that are very loyal to their cheese brands. Kraft cheese is a big one. I mean, people have some very big loyalties on that. A cream cheese, Philadelphia cream cheese does come up, which means you're probably more loyal to the Philadelphia brand and you don't trust the store brand. Anyway, it's very interesting, isn't it, how people have this loyalty to a brand and they're going to defend that brand. And here's another one I think is a big one. Oh, yes. Arloa says, yes, I'm a big Laura Carno fan. Of course, I said that, Arloa. I said that. Here, I love you, Arloa. I announced you were a big Laura Carno fan. As if Arloa wanted to put some more emphasis, as you may say, on it. She wanted to really, no, Jimmy, I am a big Laura Carno fan. I know, rub it in. Arloa cheering up there when the Carno's on there, when the Ratliff's up there. And me, I get the golf clap. That's it. I feel the respect. Again, redheaded stepchild of radio for years, and now I'm the redheaded stepchild of podcasting and streamcasting. But thank God for Laura Carno. Thanks God for Jay Ratliff. Arloa, I'm a big fan. I wouldn't watch this crap without him. That's what I'm sensing in my heart. All right, I was going a different direction there, and then Arloa interrupted me. Loyalty, the brand loyalty. Here's a brand I think a lot of folks are loyal to. Macallan Scotch. There's other brands that are, if I have a Scotch that I'm really loyal to that I like going back to on occasion is Lafroig. It's a very peaty Scotch, but I like the peat in my Scotch. But Macallan knows some people that are very loyal to the Glenlivet. And then all those Scotches, it depends on the aging of them and what year you have on that, how many years you have on it. So another brand that I think I was always loyal to as a kid, and I'd never thought of this until my son became a kid, Heinz ketchup. We always liked it when Mama bought Heinz ketchup and not Hunt's ketchup. Don't know why. It tasted different. But ketchup is like all sugar. But now they're going to change the dyes they put into Heinz ketchup, thanks to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We were very loyal to Heinz ketchup. Ranch dressing was one that my son he likes. I think it's the Hidden Valley Ranch. If you buy the Safeway or the Kroger or the King Soopers brand of the ranch, he never got excited. You had to stay very loyal to ranch dressing because, as you know, kids love the ketchup and the ranch dressing. But Heinz ketchup was always our go-to. Very loyal to the brand. Some people are very loyal to dish detergent, laundry detergent. I've never been that loyal to laundry detergent. Is anybody else religious about their laundry detergent? I don't do the store brands because I think that's a lot of that's probably just water, and they're probably equal the same. But I just kind of look at the major brands of which one has the best price and which one doesn't stink. I don't want to smell, as my father said, when someone would wear a lot of perfume. This is my father. This is tell you where I got this. My father, rest his soul, passed away many, many years ago. But he not. It didn't matter if he was at high school with me, seeing some at a high school activity, college activity. If he ever smelled something, and he'd say, if somebody had too much perfume on, it didn't matter if it was my mother. He'd say, someone smells like a French whore. So I go by my laundry detergent. Oh, Jif peanut butter. Hold on the peanut butter. We'll get to that one. If my mother got in the car on the way to church and or my sister were all going to church as a family, and one of them had put a little bit too dab of the perfume on, he'd say, somebody smelled like a French whore. That was my dad's deal. So when I buy laundry detergent, I'm not that loyal to the brand. Our Lois is very loyal to Tide. She prefers Tide. But I just don't want to smell like a French whore. That's all I care about. Don't want to smell like a hooer. And some of those detergents can smell like a whore. Anybody ever bought those the little tube of things and their little beads that you can put in your laundry to make it smell even better? My son told us to buy some. We bought some of those. Neither one of us should use them because you do walk away smelling like a French whore. And I guess French whores smell different than American whores. I don't know. But yeah. I don't know. French. Nobody else. You ever heard that phrase? Delilah's over there at whore going, what the hell is a French whore? A whore from France is what it is, Delilah. You never heard of her? Actually, my dad was a very southern Texas man, Deep East Texas, and he didn't say French whore. If he got dressing at a restaurant, what kind of dressing do you want on your salad? He didn't order French dressing. As a southern man, he would say French dressing. How I got rid of the accent that I grew up around, I have no clue. But he'd say, French whore, you smell like a French whore. So next time you're buying detergent out there, I want you to smell it. Open the top up in the grocery store, smell it, and say, well, I can buy this. I don't want to smell like a French whore. You're welcome. We went down a rabbit trail there, didn't we? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you to subscribe to our newsletter at riverspromise.org. We send out about once every week or so. You just get a little email, usually a letter from me, updates on what we're doing in Africa and how you can help us there. And also, if you sign up, you will be first to know as we launch our golf tournament registration. It comes up the first Friday after Labor Day in September, and registration is going to begin here the next 24 hours. And you want to be a sponsor, you want to be a part of it, that's coming up real soon. You'll get an email, but you'll be hearing me talk about our annual golf tournament for Rivers Promise, riverspromise.com, riverspromise.org. Scroll to the bottom of the homepage and you can see a way to sign up for our newsletter. And again, we don't spam you, we don't sell the list or anything. It's just a few communications a month at the most, and maybe not even that much. Sometimes we're really slack and we don't do it. That's my fault. But we'd love to communicate with you. And also wanted to make a donation. We appreciate that. Help us take care of the kids. We're looking to put more space in our school, build some buildings, and we got to sponsor some more kids because we need sponsors and space. And you can help us with that. riverspromise.org. It's time for the meme roulette portion of the show. We go around the globe. We steal memes. A lot of great. By the Jif peanut butter. I know people that are very loyal to the peanut butter as Jif and Skippy. Like you can go between, you want the extra crunchy or the Jif or the Skippy. Only Jif. I know people that don't Skippy. I don't. And there's other brands of peanut butter, right? But the peanut butter is one of those things that I think it's like religious. I think people fight wars over peanut butter. I think they do. All right, good to have. I like this brand discussion. It's quite fascinating because everybody's got an opinion on a brand. Did they still make cheer? Remember all temperature cheer? As a kid, I always wanted my mom to buy the all temperature cheer because I liked the commercials. And she was a Tide lady. My mom was a Tide lady. All temperature cheer. I don't know if they still have that. That was a cheer. I don't know. I don't remember seeing it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to play the meme roulette section of the program, where we go around the globe and we steal memes from places that and the bottoms that we scour the internet for the humorous memes out there that illustrate the absurdity of the world that we live in. And so let's play together, shall we? Yes, let's do it. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows, my friends. Oh, now we know it's the Babylon Bee. Trump's Christian faith is now being questioned as he didn't say fudge. They don't know what the fudge we're doing. People would have been okay with that, right? One of my guys from Africa called me yesterday after the show, and it was a FaceTime call, and he said, President Trump said the F word, and he's laughing. He says, oh, I cannot believe him. I'm shocked he said the F word. And I said, yeah, he said the F word. He goes, are you shocked? I said, I thought it was funny, and he laughed that I thought it was funny. Was anybody really offended by that? You don't like crass language. Some of those like the crass language, but what do we say? Emphasis or emphasis? Donald Trump had some emphasis he needed to make, and he made it with some emphasis, and he got the word across. But yeah, I'm sure there's prayer meetings happening around the globe. He should have said fudge. He should have said go to heck instead of go to hell. He should have said darn it instead of damn it. Oh, Jesus, help him. I think it's okay. Just relax. Take a deep breath. Round around the globe. Go where we steal the memes from no one knows. Here's a photo of a man. What's he eating? An ice cream cone? I don't know. He's got something in his mouth, and it could be frightening to know. I was born a male, identifies a male, but according to Stouffer's Lasagna, I'm a family of 4. It doesn't look like he's eating ice cream, not Stouffer's Lasagna. Yeah, that's true, though. A family of 4. Yeah, sometimes those are lies. What do you mean there's 2 servings in this package? That was 1 serving to me, sir. Man. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. 2 fellows standing out in front of Victoria's Secret. God, you can't unsee that. And instead of Victoria's Secret, they crossed it out, and it's called Vic's Secret. And there's Producer Chad, is that you in the window shop? Is that one of Producer Chad's costumes for the weekend? If you can't see it because you're listening, you got to go back and see it. We should put this out on my Facebook page. It's a man dressed up in, say, some skimpy lingerie, and evidently it's called Vic's Secret instead of Victoria's Secret. And the 2 guys looking, and the lady and the man looking, said, "Well, it was only a matter of time, wasn't it?" Yeah, only a matter of time. Producer Chad, yeah. You know, if that's Vic's secret, Vic doesn't have much secret left. That's all I'm saying. There's no secret in what's happening there. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. There's Ben Franklin looking at writing, probably the Constitution. Oh, yeah, he is. He says, you know what it doesn't say in the Constitution? Give up your rights to appease some crybaby liberals. No, not in the Constitution at all. Give up your rights so you can appease crybaby liberal libtard politicians or citizens. No, it's not there. I read the Constitution. I know it's not there. I'll read it again just for you. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Another Babylon Bee. Hamas has claimed responsibility for the New York City mayoral primary. It make that big deal. Yesterday I heard guys talking in Colorado about the New York City primary, and well, yeah, it's a big deal, but I don't, destroy it. That's what, it's fine. It's like people choose the mayor of Denver. I just avoid the hellhole of Denver. That's what I try to do. And, you get what you vote for. But yeah, it is an embarrassment. But do you hear that New York City mayor, Hispanic and blacks that voted in the Democrat primary, voted for Cuomo and other candidates, this communist won, that Hamas will probably claim responsibility for, as the meme said. He won by white liberals, the little white crackers that live in their parents' basement. Yeah, he won by that's who he won. He dominated. So white honkies with some kind of a guilt about being born American, they're the ones that voted for the commie. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. I think this may be the last one, but here we go. Here's the top 4 reasons Trump did not brief the Democrats before the attack. And it's pictures of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and other jackwagon members of what we call the squad. And you're right. That's the 4 reasons that Trump did not brief the Democrats before the attack, and should limit his briefings as best of his ability to leadership only, and keep some of these un-American people outside of the briefings and confidential information. Let's see. I think it's dry. Let's see if we have milked the meme machine dry. Round around the globe we go. Where are we steal the memes from? No one knows. Ladies and gentlemen, it breaks my heart. We have milked the meme machine dry, but we have had an action-packed show. A lot of comments coming in the chat room, and thanks for being a part of the show. As you see on the screen, I am Lord Lakey of the house, Lord Lakey, the House of Lakey, and it's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Jimmy. If you'd like to advertise with us, be a sponsor on the show, always love to have you. And again, there's a lot of different packages, price packages. It doesn't matter what region you're in. It's not just access to this podcast, but the other podcast platforms we have. We can give you access to all of them, and the platform shows. And also, don't forget, we have a good web presence as well. So don't be hesitant. It's a way to support some businesses out there like to support NPR. You can support Jimmy and producer Chad and the work we're doing here. Advertise with us. We'll put something together for you, and just would love to shout out as many businesses as possible and help us out do that. You can also donate to our charity work at riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. All right. Don't need communists to know Jack. I missed the context of that. Okay, I'll read it later. Ladies and gentlemen, we got to go. We're way over time on our allotted time, and producer Chad and I are now working. We got to clock out. The boss is going to scold us if we put in too many hours here. Going to get in trouble. There's the music. That means it's time to go. Email me, info@jimmylakey.com. Advertise with us. Donate, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com. I am Jimmy Lakey. Producer Chad's over there working very hard. We appreciate everybody being a part of the program. Until we meet again, go like us on all the podcast platforms. This show will be live on podcast across the world here in just a few moments. I am Jimmy Lakey, and I'll see you tomorrow. Friday edition of the show coming up. May God bless you. God bless America. Jimmy Lakey, peace. I'm out of here.